Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your audio version of the midweek roundup for makers. Greetings, folks, and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your audio roundup of all things maker and embedded and lovely. This is the audio version of a YouTube show, just in case you're tuning in for the first time. So some of the bits that you hear may sound like I'm referring to something that you can't see, and that is because I'm referring to a screen. Although if there's some things that really make no sense whatsoever without a visual cue, I will drop in and give you an audio cue as well. I'm recording this show from a different location. You may have already noticed that there's a difference in the audio quality, and that is because I'm using borrowed equipment, and I'm in the attic of a different house instead of my own attic. We visited my parents over Easter and took the entire family with us, which has been lovely, if a little chaotic. That was also the reason there was no podcast out last week. I think I mentioned that may be a possibility, because we were traveling by land and sea rather than aeroplane. That takes a rather long time and a rather lot of planning, and so there just wasn't time to get a show recorded. So yes, I do hope the audio quality on this show is all right. If it significantly isn't, do let me know, because it's worth knowing that if I am ever in this situation again, that I need to come up with something different. I did try my best. I did bring actually a fair bit of audio equipment with me, including a very nice microphone, which for whatever reason has not been playing nicely over here. And I'm not really sure why. Anyway, that is a lot of excuses and waffling before the show. We have some very interesting stuff this week. We have some Electromaker stuff like the Product of the Week and the Electromaker of the Month winners for the last month. Some fantastic projects, including one extra project I threw in just as a bonus, just because I thought it was great. It's a nice use of addressable LED strips to turn them into a screen. And we also have funding website things, and we will be covering the now slightly old news that the Arduino Uno is getting a new revision 4, with the first major changes to the microcontroller development board since its initial release 10 years ago. So with all that to get through, let's get on with the show. Now, to start this week's show, we're going to talk about the Electromaker of the Month winners for the month of March. But before we do, let's talk about a project on the Electromaker website that really caught my eye. Because you can buy a bunch of wonderful things in order to do retro gaming development or to do general development or hardware development. But things like the Arduino Uno, which we'll be talking about later, and addressable LED strips actually can do a lot more than you would imagine. Because after all, if you set LED strips out in rows and columns and you program them well, what do you have other than a low resolution LED screen, essentially? Which is exactly what this project does. This is a recreation of the retro classic Pong using pretty bare minimum maker parts. And yeah, it's definitely worth a look. One small piece of context for the podcast listeners is that it may be obvious from what I say, but this is a piece of addressable LED strip that has been cut into strips of, I think, 17. And there are 17 of those strips. So each strip has 17 LEDs. It goes 17 across. They're being laid side by side and are all attached together. And then, of course, through code, you can just treat that like an LED matrix or indeed a screen. And that is what they are doing here. That may be obvious, but just since it's such a visual thing, I wanted to drop in and just mention that. So, unlike a version of Pong we featured on the channel recently from Dave's Garage, which was an authentic recreation of the original Pong machine using the same circuitry, this is the modern super DIY version, in that this is using WS2812B strips, commonly also known as NeoPixels, depending on where you get them from, which are addressable LEDs. And of course, there's a bunch of things that you can do with them, but if you put them in a line as you are seeing here, you can, with a little bit of careful coding, turn them into a very low resolution screen, and that is exactly what Jay Stocker has done here. Or it might be Jay Stock. I'm saying that in the German way, aren't I? Jay Stocker. But yes, using an Arduino Uno and a couple of potentiometers and a button, a beefy looking power supply there, and their own LED matrix that they made themselves, they have recreated a classic version of the game Pong. And there is actually a version of it on Instagram that you can watch in action, which we will take a quick look at now. Although it is worth mentioning that for whatever reason, I'm not able to get any audio. So if there is audio, you won't be hearing it. Although if I remember correctly, there isn't actually audio in this. But yeah, when you see it in action, you see it's actually quite a compelling thing. You get a lot more than you would think for something of such a low resolution. It's quite dynamic, isn't it? And I'm not sure how far through the video it shows, but at one point he loses, and there it is. Yes, you get the red line. everything that Pong is, basically, other than keeping these scores, although I'm sure that's something that could be added if you really wanted to. And yeah, I just thought this was a really, really nice way of sort of showing off the other side of things, which is there's a huge amount of peripherals and things that you can get for Arduinos and Raspberry Pis these days, and there's nothing wrong with those. I mean, relatively recently, we looked at 314 Reactor's latest version of his Artificial Life, which uses those beautiful hub displays, those 64 by 64 pixel displays. But yeah, if you've got a load of addressable LED strips kicking about in an Arduino, you're going to be able to do some fairly decent stuff. In fact, as we're going to be talking about later in the show, pretty soon, if you have an Arduino Uno lying around, if it's one of the newer ones that will be arriving soon, you're going to be able to do quite a lot with them. But yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But either way, I thought this was a really good project. As always, this is a project on the Electromaker website. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and all of the code is here as well if you would like to take a look at it and maybe have a go at doing it yourself, along with a quick write-up as to how they put it all together, and that video that I showed you, which is on their Instagram as well. Now, while the Electromaker of the Month winners were broadcast through this blog post and across social media and all the ways we usually do it, I didn't have the chance to talk about it in the show last week because there wasn't one. And funnily enough, having just mentioned 314 Reactor, like I said, since there wasn't a show last week, this hasn't been in my mind for a while. He is actually the main winner of Electromaker of the Month for March 2023 with his Relic Cyberware. And we're going to get onto that in just a moment. If you aren't familiar with Electromaker of the Month, this is a rolling competition that we run here at Electromaker. Everyone who puts their project on our project hub, which is under the community tab here, anyone can upload projects. All you need to do is get a free Electromaker account. Once you're logged in, click upload your projects, and we have a very easy to use system for adding your projects to the site, for adding your documentation, for adding your code, for adding your bill of materials, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of each month, a panel of judges, luckily independent to me, which means I don't have to think about it, choose 3 projects which will win prizes. And the prizes at the minute are different Amazon gift vouchers. So I'm going to leave a link to this article for the winners from March in the description. But if you click on the tab just here, it will actually take you through to the main page for Electromaker of the Month, which tells you everything about it. So yes, at the minute, the first prize is $150 in Amazon gift vouchers and a bunch of tidy Electromaker swag that looks a bit like this. And second and third prize win the same, but in smaller denominations. So $100 Amazon gift voucher and $50 Amazon gift voucher. And this is provided to us by the lovely people at Mauser who've decided to sponsor the contest. But yes, there's a video here that goes into a bit more detail if you'd like to know more, but let's get on to talking about the winners. So, like I said, Relic Cyberware by 314 Reactor is the winner this time. And this video, I can play a little bit of it, although there isn't really much point as you won't be able to hear it. But the video is absolutely, definitely worth a watch. It goes through everything that went into making it. And also it has this fantastic intro, which is, in case you hadn't kind of guessed, Relic Cyberware is based on the Cyberpunk 2077 game. The idea that you can have another person as a part of an implant in your head. Johnny Silverhands, played by Keanu Reeves in the game, is what this is sort of based around. And it uses one of the factions in the game. At least I believe it's one of the factions. I'm going to throw my hands up and be honest and say I haven't actually played Cyberpunk yet. I'm looking forward to doing so. I decided to wait until the game wasn't quite so much of a mess, and perhaps when I had more than just a few minutes a day spare time. But I'm very much looking forward to playing it. But yes, this is a ChatGPT-based companion that attaches to your head, and then you can speak to it and give it various text prompts, which will then be passed through to ChatGPT along with your heart rate, which is measured using a heart rate monitor on your temple. And as you can see from the video just here, it's all very compact. It all fits on a headband over the head. And I love this introduction to the video. It's great. And yeah, it's just a fantastic project. There's as always with 314's project, it's very well documented. And the point I may have missed here is that you can speak to it. It will turn that text to that speech to text, and it will put it into a custom ChatGPT API, and then it will use that along with the heart rate data to create custom outputs based on the Trauma team, which is, like I say, I believe it's a faction in the game. I haven't played the game yet. I've just seen lots of Johnny Silverhands content because the memes were heavy when it first came out. Yeah, if you're interested in finding out more, I would definitely take a look at the not the updated, I'd definitely take a look at the documentation to get all of the information for it. Yeah, congratulations, 314. This is an absolutely deserved win. It's a wonderful idea, a wonderful piece of kit, and a really nice build. Second place this time is a tutorial on how to make an Arduino hollow clock from DIY Projects Lab. Now, this is a remix or a build based on the amazing design that was by Shinsaku Hyura originally. There's a link here out to the YouTube channel, and right at the start of DIY Projects Lab's video, as you're about to see. Well, very quickly, this is the clock in action. And before we go on, let me just show you how it works. I'm going to pause it here. You can see it moving. I'm going to pause it here. So the minute hand is moving round, and the minute hand is actually attached to the outside ring, the black outside ring you can hopefully see here. And it moves around the clock, well, every minute. And this is sped up footage. Where things get really interesting is the fact that the minute hand has a free moving bearing on the end, and the hours hand is just a completely loose, free moving thing, as it were. This should just be swinging at the bottom here, or still pointing down to the 6 o'clock point just here, because it is a loose bearing. What makes it so clever is that there's a neodymium magnet at the end of this hours hand, and there's 2 neodymium magnets in the red part of the ring just here, and that is what holds it in place. And all of the movement for this clock is done using a single motor in the bottom with a worm gear, which is designed specifically to move the minute hand at the right speed and to move the hours hand at the right speed as well. Now, as I was saying, one of the first things that DIY Projects Lab does in this video is give props to Shinsaku for the original design, because it is an incredible design. And if you want to find out more about the original design and the various iterations it went through, you can head to the link to Shinsaku's YouTube channel just here. The thing about this one that's really nice is just the fact that it is very aesthetically pleasing. They've taken the original design and put a bit of thought into how they want it to look, the aesthetics of it, and they've come up with something that is absolutely lovely. If you would like to know more about it, I would absolutely recommend taking a look at the video, which takes you through all of it. And as always, the title, and just here, will take you to the actual build page, which goes through each section of it as well. One small change from the original design, which I quite liked, is the fact that they took the innards, all the electronic innards, and they mounted it all into a custom PCB, which includes the Arduino Nano and the stepper motor driver as well. So it's just one nice self-contained thing that you can just power, as you see with the barrel jack just here. Yeah, one of the parts that I really wanted to show off as well is the drive system. Now, again, if you watch the video that DIY Projects Lab has made, you will see this yourself. But this just gives a sort of idea as to how it works. You have this is what attaches to the actual motor itself, and you have the worm gear, which goes at a certain rate, and then it is attached to another pair of gears here. So you get the right speed for each part of the clock. Which, again, I believe the original calculations were all done by the original maker. Yeah, the fact that this is all 3D printed, all fits into a nice 3D printed case, all looks really aesthetically pleasing and very professional is one of the things that really impressed our judges, along with the fantastic documentation. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that our judges have to go on when it comes to judging this stuff is the documentation that you put up on the Electromaker website, be that the project pages themselves or the videos that go along with them. Anyhow, if you'd like to know more about the original project, there's a link here in this blog I'll be putting in, and you can go through to the original project as well. I'll be putting it in the description of this video if you'd like to find more. Congratulations, you win second place DIY Projects Lab. Third prize this time is Alex Miller, and it's hardly a surprise because Alex specializes in TinyML projects. And this is using an Arduino Nicola, which has, well, there's several versions of the Arduino Nicola to begin with. This is the Arduino Nicola Sense, I think. I wrote this blog article and I've already forgotten. It was a little while ago, although it was right there. The Arduino Nicola Sense ME. And the idea behind it is that it's about the same size as a normal wristwatch, a smartwatch or a fitness watch. And these are things that can collect a lot of data. They know, for example, if you're walking or if you're running. They can sense if you are sleeping. The idea behind this project is a proof of concept for picking up more different kinds of activities. So if I move through to the actual action of the video, you'll see he's about to, he's got this mounted to his smartwatch, the Nicola, and he's going to pick up a brush and brush his hair. And hopefully you can see in the background that the laptop is now saying you are brushing the hair. But this is a TinyML project. That inference is not being done on the laptop. That is being done on the Nicola. It's just being sent over to the laptop in order to give the information. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly how they're doing it, but yeah, the serial data is being sent over. This is using the Newton AI platform, which is very similar to Edge Impulse. They both do a similar thing. You can take data that you collect in the real world, and then you can upload that to Newton, and they will train a model in the cloud that you can deploy back onto your microcontroller or your single board computer or whatever. And these can be pretty much anything. We've seen projects that use the Newton platform that are doing tiny ML on an Arduino Uno on a tiny little 8-bit microcontroller. It's quite astonishing, really, given how hard it was to do this stuff a very short time ago. So yes, if you would like to find out more about it, of course, you can click the link here and it will take you to the actual project page that it was put up. And yeah, congratulations, Alex. You win our third prize of a $50 Amazon gift voucher and a pile of Electromaker swag as well. So yes, that was our Electromaker of the Month winners for March 2023. As always, we are blown away by the level of projects that we get on Electromaker. It is something that we really do enjoy looking at. I work mostly alone, and that's why sometimes I'll kind of write about something on social media, and then it will suddenly turn out to be a winner of something, because it turns out that I think I have decent tastes in projects. But every single month, towards the end of the month, everything that is submitted that month to the website and published is all put in the pile for our judges to look at. So if you are sitting on a project that you're documenting, whether it's finished or not, no matter how complex it is, it doesn't have to be the most complex project in the world. If you have passion for it and you document it well, it will go in the pile for our judges to look at. Maybe you will be a winner of Electromaker of the Month next time. Moving over to funding website things. Now, this is the part of the show where we look at things on funding websites. Yes, this week, there's a couple of things we're going to take a look at. One of them is on Crowd Supply, which we run a lot. And if you're not familiar with Crowd Supply, it is like Kickstarter, but it is just for awesome hardware projects for makers and engineers. It really is a focused version of Kickstarter for this kind of show, which is perfect for me. But we're also going to look at a Kickstarter page as well, because there are still some amazing hardware projects that show up on Kickstarter. But yes, let's begin with the AeroLink. One of my favorite things that solves a simple but annoying problem in your DIY smart home setup. So, AeroLink is a crowd supply campaign that is currently funding. As you see, this had the nominal $1 goal just to sort of get it going. They've actually raised $2,500 for it, and that's because it's fundamentally a good idea. Ultimately, as it says, it's a hackable infrared remote control with an open API and support for app and voice control. What this means in practice is that you have a connected chip on here. This is one of the ESP32 chips. I think, if I'm seeing that right, that's the C3. ESP32 C3 Mini. I could have just scrolled down to where it actually gives the design specifications. It's with a USB connector, and it has a infrared receiver and an infrared blaster on it. Essentially this will turn any infrared device into a connected smart home device. Which is a great thing, because yes, you can get a smart home hub and proprietary light bulbs and a million and one things, but you might also just want to get one of those cheaper light bulbs that has an infrared remote that comes with an infrared remote. There's nothing wrong with them. Or maybe something a bit more substantial. You have an air conditioning system or a heating system in your house, and there's nothing wrong with it. You have no reason to replace it, but it just so happens that it has an infrared remote control. The idea behind this is that you can sit this in front of any infrared receiver, and you can still use that same remote. It will just pass through those infrared signals, but of course, courtesy of this ESP32 chip on it as well, you can add it to a wider home assistant type setup that you have going for it. And it also has an app as well. The beauty of it is, though, this is a completely open API, so you can use, as it says here, you can use our mobile apps or integrate it into your smart home platform of choice, be it something proprietary like Alexa, Google Assistant, or Apple HomeKit, or Home Assistant, or if this, then that. And as it says, using this costs a fraction of what you pay for a single new appliance. And that's sort of what I see this being used for. You could buy multiple of these and use them around the house, but I see this more being the kind of thing that if you have, as I said before, something like an old air conditioning unit that you know is working fine, there's no need to replace it, you could stick this on the front and it would take over the duties of infrared while allowing you to control it from an app or at the cloud as well. Now, as I mentioned before, I could have just looked at this rather than zooming in on the chip itself, but it does have an ESP32C3 Mini 1, and I'm not intimately familiar specifically with that chip, but that's the beauty of an ESP32. We all know more or less roughly what they do and what to expect from them, at least until the P4 comes out, which has no Wi-Fi connectivity at all. But yes, this is a Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5. This is the RISC-V version, which is a single-core processor, but let's face it, we don't need this to be a mad double dual core processor doing 1,000 things. This is absolutely more than enough for what it needs. And then it has a microchip AT-Tiny167 as the LED driver. And yeah, you can see all the rest of the things here. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of all there is to say about it for now. The thing about it that I like is that it just takes a singular problem that smart home owners face, which is that not everything is smart, and not everyone is obsessed with getting the latest new tech the second it comes out, but you may still want to have a connected home. And this sidesteps that problem nicely by giving you a single way that you can do that. So there's 22 days left on the crowd supply launch as I am recording this on the funding campaign. And you can get an Aero for $55. There's various purchase options down at the bottom of this page. Yes, there's like a wall mounted. Okay, these are just USB AC adapters. So potentially something that you could skip, given that this is just USB-C. But the thing itself is $55. If you are interested in finding out more, there will, of course, be a link in the description. Now, we're moving over to Kickstarter for Identify, and this is a fingerprint hat for the Pi Pico. And it actually integrates a few more things than that. As you can see, there's a 1.4-inch TFT display on there, and a 5-way joystick, and the sensor array, which is the fingerprint sensor. And as well, of course, it also extends the GPIOs of the Pi Pico. And it's just a really nice little extra kit. I love the fact that the idea of putting hats on the Pi Pico is starting to take off, because obviously we have a lot of Arduino shields and there's a huge amount of Raspberry Pi hats. But these Pi form factor hats are really quite nice. And there's not an awful lot more for me to say about it other than what it is, which is quite nice. It explains itself entirely. I love the idea of the imagery here, so it actually shows what it scans. I don't know if that's legit. I don't know if this is actually showing the fingerprint or whether this is just a nice animation. I'm almost certain it's a nice animation, actually. But it doesn't matter. That's absolutely besides the point. This is just a really nice little kit for starting to work with things like fingerprints. Now, one of the nice things about this is that it has its own integrated MCU to run the show for you. So as it says here, it has the Nuvoton MCU, one that I'm not all that familiar with. But as it says here, it has a guaranteed strong security, dependable performance with on-chip crypto accelerator, Cortex M23 trust zone, and XOM features, making it powerful enough to complete the work successfully, although I think safely might be a better way of putting it, in a secure way. This is something that you can talk to via USB or UART, if I remember correctly, if you want to talk to it via your Pico. This is one of many things that that they've already made. I've already forgotten the name of the maker, although I have seen their work on the site before. Where do you find this? Ravinder, yes. Ravinder's made several things for the Pi before. In fact, if you go down this page, you'll see a big list of all of the different hats that they've already made for it. And of course, you can get a Pi Pico from them as well if you want to get everything in one go. There are various ways that you can support this, although if you pledge £35, you will get an Identify. And if you pledge £41, you'll get one with a Pi Pico WH with it, which will of course be very handy because you can get started straight away. I saw this. I tend to scan through Kickstarter quite a lot, and I find that there's a lot of stuff in Kickstarter that is very good, but isn't necessarily relevant for the show, or doesn't necessarily kind of hit. And obviously, Crowd Supply is a wealth of fantastic hardware projects. But there are people like Ravinder who are making fantastic add-ons for things that already exist. And I thought this one was definitely worth a mention. So if you would like to support this project, there is still 23 days to go on it. They have absolutely smashed their goal, so this will be something that comes out. And I will leave a link to it in the description if you're interested in finding out more. It is now time for our product of the week. So we're going to join Robin Mitchell, who is our in-house gadget guru. He is also the Electromaker educator. He is a trained engineer and can give insights into things in a way that I absolutely cannot. The product of the week also doubles as a competition because everything that is featured on the product of the week is given away as a prize. And yes, we will be announcing in a couple of minutes the winner of the Enviro hat for Raspberry Pi, which was the last product of the week that I talked about on our previous show. But for now, let's go over to Robin to look at the product of the week, which is the Adafruit PIR motion sensing module. Product of the week this time is the humble PIR motion sensor. And I say humble because I feel like with all of the advances in computer vision and object recognition, people forget that sometimes you just need to see if there is movement within a certain space. After all, these PIR sensors have been the thing that have sensed movement in people's houses, for example, when they don't want people to be moving in there to trigger, the alarm, as it were. And this week's product of the week is the Adafruit PIR motion sensor, which is an all-in-one module. And as always, if you would like to find out more about it, instead of me trying to tell you about it, I defer to our in-house gadget guru, Robin Mitchell. I say in-house, he's in a different house to the one that I record in. And of course, I'm recording in a different house again today. But yes, Robin is an engineer with years of experience who now works as a journalist in tech and also is someone who is very good at talking about things on video. And he will take you through everything you need to know about this particular sensor. And as I said before, the PIR sensor module, I'm always tempted to say the humble PIR sensor module. Well, what they do is actually quite amazing. It gives a wide angle of recognition, and if it sees anything moving in that angle, it will give you a signal you can use with any kind of microcontroller, any kind of computer. If you have a breakout for USB for a laptop or a normal computer, you can even use them then. They're very low power and very safe. So yes, I will pretty much leave it at that for this week. Our product of the week is the Adafruit PIR motion sensor module. If you would like to know more about it, you can head to the link in the description, which shows you this video. And there is, of course, the write-up for it as well. And as always with the product of the week, we will be giving away an Adafruit PIR motion sensor to one of our viewers. So as always, the competition rules are very, very simple. You just need to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, or if you're hearing this from the podcast, you can head to one of our social media platforms, and as long as you're following us there, you can enter there as well. And you need to leave the hashtag PIR for PIR motion sensor, hashtag PIR, and the prize winner will be chosen at random, although I do very much like it when you tell me what you would use this for, what you would use it in your project, what kind of project it would be, if there's an inventive idea you have for it that you think might work. Yes, I love reading about all that kind of stuff. So yes, hashtag PIR, make sure you're subscribed to or following the platform that you enter on, and give me a nice idea of what your project will be, and we'll be announcing the winner of that next week. And this brings us on to announcing the winner of the last product of the week competition, which was actually launched in the last episode that we had. Simply because there was just no time to get an episode out last week because of traveling by land and sea as we were doing, which takes up quite a lot of time. But yes, the winner of the Enviro Raspberry Pi hat, which in case you missed it, is an environmental sensing hat, which worked with pretty much any kind of Raspberry Pi, including the Pi Zero variants, has been won by R. Bushy, who left the hashtag Enviro and said they've got an Orange Pi 3 long-term service hooked up to their 3D printer. They'd love to use the Enviro for when they get an enclosure for it, which is actually a very nice use case for it, thinking about it, because there are certain things you want to know about the area around your 3D printer. You don't want it to get too hot there, but you also don't want it to get too cold. And also there's a certain amount of humidity that will ruin filament. So yes, that's a particularly good use for it. So congratulations, Arbushy. You will be winning this prize. We'll be in touch with you as to how you can get that's sent to you. And thank you to everyone who enters these competitions. I really do love reading all of the ideas that people have for the prizes that we give away. Yes, as I said, congratulations. And I will be announcing the winner of this week's competition next week. To close out the show this week, we're going to look at a couple of new products. One has just been announced and is not out yet, and one is actually already out. That is the ST-Link V3 Power, which is ST's all-in-one programmer, debugger, and power profiler. It is also a power source. It is not dissimilar to the Power Profiling Kit 2 that we've looked at, which is the Nordic Semiconductor version of a similar thing. If you already work with STM32 chips, you're going to be very interested in this piece of kit. But before that, yes, let's talk about the Arduino revision 4, because it is really quite exciting. Now, this was the big news of the week. Well, it's the big news of last week, really, but we weren't here, which is the Arduino Uno, which is possibly the most recognizable embedded board in the world at this point, I would argue, in terms of the fact that every engineer knows what an Arduino Uno is, and people who have never even touched one or have an interest in the hobby understand the concept of an Arduino. And when they think of an Arduino, they think of the Arduino Uno form factor. It is, an insanely recognizable thing, and it's going through its first major change since it came out, really. Because the 8-bit ATmega 328 and 328P chips that were on those on those boards are incredibly capable things. They run at 8 megahertz. They have a bunch of different inputs and outputs. You can do I2C on them. You can do SPI on them. You can do a bunch of stuff. And most people's introduction, at least who aren't engineers like me, to all of those protocols was through the Arduino Uno. And you could do, relatively decent ADC on it as well. And you could even convince it to pretend that it had a DAC on it by using PWM. All of that has somewhat changed because very soon the Arduino Uno R4 is going to come out, revision 4. And it has a 32-bit chip on it, a Renesas processor, which I know that Renesas has been putting out some incredibly powerful and cheap things recently. In fact, it seems like a lot of people are starting to put out cheaper versions of similar things. TI just put out an entire range of cheaper microcontrollers that are 32-bit. Renesas are doing it. The Renesas processors are showing up on other Arduino things as well. We just talked about the Potenta C33, which has a much more powerful Renesas chip on it, but still, compared to the Potenta, it's cheaper and not quite as powerful, but still very capable. And the Arduino Uno R4 is going to be a big step up. Rather than go through every detail, I'm just going to mention a couple of cliff notes that I thought were interesting. So first, there's going to be two versions of it. There's going to be the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi and the Arduino Uno R4 Minima. And as far as I can tell, the only difference between the two of them is that the Minima it doesn't have Wi-Fi. It is the minimum version of the Arduino Uno, but you're still getting a lot more. There's nothing minimal here. It's still 5-volt tolerant, which means it's still going to work with all of your own old Arduino Uno projects. And it still has all of the same inputs and outputs that you would imagine, but a few more as well. So they've added a few things to it. As I said, following the request from the community, it's now USB-C. You know we love USB-C here. The maximum supply voltage has been increased to 24 volts, and that's actually quite a big deal. Because a lot of industrial stuff runs on 24 volts, and you might be able to just start, you might see a bunch of Arduino Uno-based solutions for adding some kind of IoT smartness to various industrial devices. Because if it has a 24 volt input now, you can use the same power bus. It also has a CAN bus, which is used widely through both industry and in the automotive industry. And if you're someone who's watched the show for a while, you'll know the seemingly small but very important thing to me is the fact that it now has an actual DAC. A digital to analog converter, a 12-bit output, which means that you'll be able to get actual output voltages, which again is going to be something that's going to be useful for automation and all that kind of stuff. But if you know me and if you think like me, you see 12-bit analog DAC and you think that's actually pretty decent quality audio output you're getting from the lowly Arduino Uno. Gone are the days where you had to sort of really work to get Mozzie working at an audio rate that you really would like to hear. And now, yes, we're going to have some quite nice output. And I'm going to be interested to see just how much grunt the new chip has to see if we're going to be able to do some kind of synthesis on an Arduino Uno. Anyway, I will leave it at that for now. You can sign up, you can join the waiting list, and you can join the early adopter program. The early adopter program is for people who are very involved. If you've been making Arduino libraries in the past, if you have been a very obviously involved part of the open source community that is Arduino, you might be able to get on that wait list, or you can join the regular waiting list. It's a really interesting time. The Arduino Uno is stepping up to the 34-bit, into the 34-bit arena, as it were. And this is just a few weeks after we chatted about the fact that the cheapest MCU you can get now is actually a 32-bit microcontroller, the ARM Cortex-M0 from the company whose name I have sadly forgotten. I will leave a link to the episode I talked about that in the description of this video, along with this blog post from Arduino. But yes, in short, a much more powerful Arduino Uno is coming that will be entirely backwards compatible with all of the other Arduino projects, and it is kind of exciting because this is sort of the original Maker board, and it's nice to see it getting an upgrade. So up last this week is something that we missed at Embedded World. It's something that I had earmarked to go and take a look at, and we just did not have the time, sadly. And also, at ST's booth at Embedded World is always swamped. And of course it is, because the STM32 is the most recognizable microcontroller in the world. When ST do stuff, people find it interesting. Embedded engineers were swarming around there because most of them work with ST products every day. Anyway, I wanted to talk about this product, the ST-Link V3 Power, or PWR, at Embedded World, and I couldn't. I wanted to talk about it the week after again, and I ran out of time, and so I'm finally getting around to chatting chatting about it now. And as I said, it's a compact in-circuit debugger and programmer for the STM32. It's a little bit more than that as well, though, because what it also does is it can be used to read power use in a project. Now, increasingly with the modern way that devices are working, we need to get more and more out of our microcontrollers and our processors with a lower power budget. And we talked about other versions of doing this. The Power Profiler Kit 2 from Nordic Semiconductor is a similar kind of thing that can provide and read power. This is coming from a slightly different angle in that it is an ST-Link device. So if you already have an ST-Link, which is what you use, if you're not familiar, to program and debug STM32 chips, this can replace that, but it can also be something that is used for power monitoring. As you would expect, this works out of the box with ST products. So you can use it with the STM32 Cube IDE, or you can use it with any other command line tools that you're using, whatever your setup is. But they do provide a STM32 Cube monitor power app, which is that's certainly a name for something, but this is their graphical tool for displaying what kind of power data is coming out of the ST-Link V3 power. I could go into all of the details as to what this thing does right now. But as always, I think if this is something that has piqued your interest, you'll be far better served going and taking a look at what it can do yourself. If you are already using STM32 chips and you're already using the software development kit and the software that ST provide, then you'll already kind of have an idea as to how this might fit into your working way of doing things. What I don't have, and what I haven't been able to find, strangely enough, is a price for this as of yet. And I don't know if I'm just being silly and I've missed it. But yes, I haven't come up with a price for it just yet. But if you would like to know more, I'll leave a link to this page in the description. The data brief is definitely worth a look at as well. That is a PDF that goes through in even more detail as to what this thing is and what it can do, along with how you can order them yourself as well. Oh, I must have completely missed this. The last time I searched this, I didn't actually see any listings for the V3 Power in Google, but it is going to be £81. I'm in pounds here because I'm geographically located in the UK currently. But as you can see, there is no stock of it at this exact moment. But yes, if you are interested in getting the all-in-one ST-Link with the power capabilities, you can get one for £81 from Mouser when they are back. That was the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all of the support that you show us, whether that's just by downloading this podcast every week or giving it a good rating on iTunes or whatever your podcast provider is, or by shopping in the Electromaker shop. Our shop is the only way that this podcast is supported financially. We don't do any adverts on the podcast or any kind of sponsored things on the podcast. And the same goes for our YouTube channel as well. We don't have any advertisements or any kind of monetization turned on for it. We rely entirely on people buying things from the shop. So whatever you're thinking of doing, whether it's buying a gift for someone, setting up your next hobby project, or buying things in bulk for your work, consider checking out the Electromaker shop. And that is it for this week's podcast as well. I hope it has been not too much of a massive dip in quality. I've done a little bit of prep work to try and make it not the case. And I'll be doing a lot of post-processing on the audio to try and take away any of the nasty edges that this room has, and perhaps the P's and the S's that this microphone is going to pick up. But yes, next week I am back to my regular habitat. I will be in the Attic of Dreams once again with all of my nice soundproofing in my microphone. And I look forward to that. But for now, I hope this show was interesting to you. Do let me know if there's anything that I have missed. As always, I'm always open to suggestions. We have a Discord server with an Electromaker Show suggestions channel in it. Or you can just drop me an email at ian@electromaker.io with anything you think might fit this show or podcast. But for now, that is it. I hope you have a fun, safe, and creative week, and I'll chat to you soon.